Hi everybody, this is Tina with Rehatched Designs, and I'm here with a flip through of my boho gypsy journal. I'm going to call this the pink one. I have two of them, and this is the second one, the flip through on it. They're very similar, but yet still very different. So I really kind of have to do a flip through of both. I believe that both of these are sold, but if for any, or both of them are sold, if for any reason they're not, then I will list it in my Etsy shop, you know, for sale. But if it's listed in there reserved, then that means the person just is going to purchase it. But if they decide not to, it will be in there for sale. Anyway, let me go through it. I'm going to try and be as quick as possible. This is a soft journal, although it does have structure in it because I have, it's a soft cover. It has fabric on the outside and the inside, but it also has a file folder in between, and that gives it the squishiness and the flexibility. But at the same time, it's, you know, it still kind of has a shape, somewhat of a shape to it. The outside of this has been made with this upholstery material, and it's really beautiful. And then there's some sari silk that has gone all the way around the outside, and it covers the, basically covers the sari silk closure that's over here. And it reinforces it. The outside of it, you can tell, has this beautiful dangly trim going down the front, and that is all these little beautiful bead dangles with a lot of gold trim around it. I put two boho beads in front that I made, and this is some vintage sari that has been underneath as a frame that has gold foiling in it. This picture has wax on it to seal it. Underneath it, there is some vintage sari that has been cut out and put underneath it, with also some trim around it. This is basically an old part of a Christmas ornament that I put on there. This is the little dangle that I made. So there's lots of jewelry on the outside. There's also this tassel that has all kinds of trim and lace and everything in it that is removable, that clips on. The binding, it is approximately 4 inches, and it's covered in lace. And then it's approximately a 6x9, but with a 4-inch spine. And you know, like I said, it is a soft journal, so it's kind of a flexible type thing. The outside of it has lots of little drippings down the side, all kinds of lace and trim and tassel and beads. On the side, it has this beautiful sari silk, and then it has all these different drippings coming down the side with all these different laces and beads and trims all the way down the side. The top has all kinds of different tags sticking out the front, at the top. And anyway, so it's a lot. It's a lot. Anyway, it is 5 signatures, approximately 120 pages. And as full as this is, about 60 to 70% of everything in here can be removed, and it goes down to less than half this size, because that's how it started when I first did it, started filling it. But it is absolutely filled with all kinds of things, and that's kind of how I like to do my journals. If people want to take it out when they get it, then that's up to them. But if you get a journal from me, it's going to be packed full. Anyway, so it's it's really beautiful as far as the colors in it. And let me open it up. And then also here's the gold. This gold trim goes on the front and the back also, along with all the tassels and everything else. So anyway, let me go ahead and open it up so you can see it. All right, so here's my little box here. So we can kind of balance this out because it's so big. Okay, first off, oh, that's the first page. Okay, this is vintage. Sorry that this is made into a pocket. Of course, it's got this trim on the bottom. I've got this beautiful tag. And then this is a vintage library card in there. It's got another vintage piece of sari with a picture and then a tag on the side. I'm not going to pull everything out because it will take a while. The way that I did this, I made it to where all of the pieces that had heavy fringe on it were all done on cardstock to make sure that it could hold the weight. So this has some tassels on it there. On the inside, you have this beautiful piece of vintage sari outlined with gold, and it's got trim. You've got a tag there with a tarot card on it. And a picture. The way I did these journals is I did it to where the story is I did a total of 3 journals, and it was 3 sisters that, in my mind, they were all just regular people, but in their past, their whole heritage is that they come from a gypsy family, and each sister each got one of these. So that's kind of how I did it, and these are the other 2. This one is sari silk here. This is vintage sari silk that has been sewn on all the edges. And there's some postcards. This is a vintage 1911 postcard. Here is a vintage picture. Put that in there. I did a lot of either stenciling, texture paste with gesso and stamping on all of these pages. So you still have room to journal, but at the same time it's decorated. Here's just a page with a little map in it. And there's some stamping done on that. So you have lined paper. This is my wine dine paper. And that's a vintage receipt. This just has a vintage postcard. This is my gesso paper that I did, and I put that in several of these pockets. Put that in there. This is one of my tags that I made. Put that in there. This is a very vintage map. In my mind, they traveled a lot, so, you know, they have these maps in there. This is my coffee dyed paper that was stenciled. This is a vintage music page around the Gypsy fire, and that's the middle of the signature. The other side, more vintage map. This is the stenciling and sprayed paper. Okay, this is my little, this was done with beeswax, my slides that I made, and they have a little dangle on there with some beads. And then this is vintage sari, that's a tuck. It's a vintage postcard, another picture, a receipt, goes in there. This is a vintage receipt copy there. My wine dyed paper. Here is a Glassine bag with a just a little tag that I made. And this is some more of the gessoing and stenciling and texture paste. This is a vintage piece of sari that's been layered up, and then you've got several tags in here. You've got this picture, you've got a tag. This was made with my gel plate and some pictures on there. And this is an old picture, a receipt goes in there. Here is a beautiful piece of vintage sari with some trim, and it's got fringe on the bottom. This vintage postcard, this is what, 1909. And then you've got a another gel plate tag that I made. Some lace on the side. This is a vintage piece of sari that was made into a belly band, a vintage postcard, a picture of a family, another little postcard there, that goes there. This is a vintage piece of sari. This is a die cut that has vellum behind it that was made into a pocket. And this is a sealed envelope, and it opens up to where we get that out of there. That opens up, and then there's a card in there. So there we go. I'm not going to take it all the way out, and then just put that back in there. Here's some more stenciling, some wine dyed paper. I did a lot of die cuts in this to make tucks and pockets, and then they're all done with some different types of texture and that type of thing. Here's a picture. Here's a sealed envelope that was made with napkin, or covered in it anyway. And then that opens up, and there's a journaling card in there, so you can tuck whatever you want in there. That goes in there along with the picture. This is a junk mail envelope with a picture in it, and that was done with a my gel plate, so that is put in there. This is the little crystal ball that I made in there, and then it has this little card in there. This is another die cut. This is vintage sari. This is a card that was made with a tarot card, and then the die cut has vellum behind it. This is an altered playing card, and then here's just a little another index, a card that was put in there. This is more texture paste and gesso and ink and everything. There's a lot of stuff were done to these pages, and they look really fun in person, but it does allow you still to journal on those pages. So this is just a vintage receipt that goes in this bag. Even though this is very full, 60 to 70% of this all can be removed, and this thing goes down to less than half the width size. So and it has tons of writing space in it. Okay, that's more coffee dyed paper, another vintage advertisement. This is just a pocket. It has some pictures in it and some railroad receipts and a guest check. Is the middle of the signature, and I didn't point it out in the other ones, but it has 5 signatures, and all of them have these little dangles hanging out the bottom. And then this was just gessoed and sprayed and whatever else. Here's some more receipts. This is an old vintage merchandise receipt. There's another receipt. There is a time card. Leave that in there. This is another vintage music. In my mind, they would be interested in music and traveling and that type of thing. And the reason the papers don't match is, if you were collecting something over years and people were adding to it, you would use whatever you had, so they wouldn't match. I mean, that's just kind of to make it look more authentic. That's kind of how I do my journals. And there's another receipt from a hotel in a bag. This is some more texture paste with the gesso and spring and everything on it. Here is another pocket made with the cutout, and it's got all different types of ink and things like texture paste on it. This is another tarot card, journaling card. This is a vintage postcard. So those two go in there. Another sprayed piece of, this has another vintage postcard and a receipt. Some music paper that has had napkin on it. And then this was watercolor painted. This is another texture paste with gesso. This is another Tim Holtz little holder, and it's got all these different receipts and tickets and things like that on it. Some more wine dyed paper, stenciled paper. Here is another tag, and this is in a die cut that has vellum behind it. And then here's the paper. A lot of this, I did it to where when you take the tag out or whatever, then you can see the other papers behind it. So here is another tag, and this is just another receipt. Put that behind there. So anyway, this is another piece of vintage sari here with this beautiful purple beading. And then there's another tag, and this was made with the gel plate. And then you've got another tag and another little tag, a little card. This just has an old picture on it and a little receipt to the theater. To me, those are the kind of things that you would have in something that you were collecting over the years. This is just a little 3-pocket thing, and it has all these different memorabilia in there. And I think the top one has an envelope in it and has a little journaling card on the inside. So that goes up there. On the other side, there's a little booklet. And it just has different papers in it. So that's more writing space. And that just goes right up here. Here you have another little pocket, and it's got this picture and some receipts and some other things. But underneath it, let me move this thing out. It's getting lopsided again. You've got this these little die cuts that all been put on here. And then that just fits in this little pocket right here. And put all this back in. All right. The next page again is more texture paste and stenciling. Coffee dyed paper with a doily on it. Another vintage postcard in this little tuck. And then this is more stamped on for lines, my wine paper. This is the astrological, vintage astrological paper. Pictures, another tuck. It's the middle of the signature. Again, you've got your little dangles here. Got some more pictures, more pockets, more receipts. Another vintage picture, some receipts, the astrological, the wine paper, and then this is your coffee dyed papers, another picture with your gessoed and stenciled paper. Your vintage sari silk. And then it has this, I'll take that off of here, remove it. And this is another tag that was made. Put that up here. Okay. And then on this side, we have a belly band that was made with the different laces and sari silk, and then a little flippy thingy. And I don't think I put anything in this just because this was getting super bulky. But you can certainly fill it. It's got all kinds of little pockets and tucks and things like that. And that just goes like that and flips around and closes. So that goes in there. Got stenciling here. This is another little tuck in here. And it's got some journaling cards and a little picture. This is a beautiful piece of sari outlined in gold. You've got a journaling card here, but you've also got this one that has a tarot card on it. That kind of goes, I think, really pretty in there. Got lace on the side. Again, I haven't been pointing out all the lace that's on the bottom of these, so there's a ton of that. You've got this vintage sari here and vintage sari here on this tarot thing that has tarot cards in it. So that is in there. Put that in there. Here is a glassine bag, and it's been decorated with a napkin and some bling. And then inside it, you've got this card, and it was done with the gel plate, and put that in there. This is some vintage sari silk with some lace, and then you've got a couple of journaling cards, your vintage map. You've got some vintage ledger and another pocket, and you've got a picture and a layaway card. Your vintage music paper, some sari silk with some vintage trim. Got a couple of pictures. You've got a 1900s, I don't know, 1901 vintage authentic postcard in there. You've got again some embossing with gessoing and that type of thing. Here, I'm going to put this on the other side now. And on this one, you've got a piece of sari trim with some different types of receipts, alteration card in there. That's the middle of the signature. Wine paper. This is the gessoed paper. These are just some old stamps. This is a card in, and this is another one of these little frames that have all kinds of gold flakes and things on it to make it look gold. And then I just put a picture on there because I figured the person getting it may want to put a picture or something on there. Some vintage music. This is another envelope. Get that off of there. And this opens up with this little tie. And inside there is, I believe, just a vintage receipt. Put that back in there. It's kind of old and crumbling. Put that back in there. Right? Okay. So that's that. And on the other side is a vintage postcard. I don't know, this one doesn't really have the date, but it's the early 1900s. And there's another vintage old map. This is just a pocket, and it has another little envelope with the card in it. Of course, you could put anything you want in there. And then another picture. This has vintage sorry outside the pocket. This has a journaling card that was made with the gel plate and a picture. This has another picture in it. This has some vintage sorry that was made into a flip, the trim with vintage trim. And of course, I haven't been pointing out all the different tassels, but there's some there. Of course, there's lace on the bottom. Made that tassel, another piece of vintage sorry, and then that is all, you know, vintage trim on there. This is the vintage sorry. That's the tag, and on the tag you have an altered playing card and another little tag that goes in there. And then this is another card that I made, or tag. And then this fits on this page, and you've got some vintage sorry. Just some receipts, some vintage sorry. This has some coffee dyed paper in there. Another vintage receipt. This is some vintage sorry again, with some just journaling cards in there. And then this is some stamped, move that under there. This is some stamped or embossed page with, you know, gesso and different colors put on there. Vintage sorry. Again, there's strings all over the place from the sorry. And I keep trimming it, but it keeps shedding. So, another receipt. This is a gessoed page. Coffee dyed page. Another piece of trim or sorry in there that's been put on there. The middle of the signature, again with some little dangles that are tangled in here somehow. Get those out later. So that's in there. And then there's a little pocket. I guess I don't have anything in there. I'll have to put something in there. There is another receipt, another gesso page. This is a couple of journaling cards in here with the lace trim. This is another one of the vellum slides I made. Put those in there. Another gessoed and embossed page. Here's another die cut that's been made into a pocket that has a picture and a journaling card. Another vintage advertisement. This is a card, an envelope that was done with napkin, and it has a journaling card in it. And of course, you could put anything you want in there. This little pocket. And let's see here, we've got another belly band, and then this had a couple of journaling cards and an envelope with another little journaling card on the inside. Put that back in here. Here is an envelope. Let me get that out of there so it gets stuck on these little pieces here. And then this opens up, kind of like the other one did. And it is got a guest check in it and another receipt. Put that in here. It's kind of like that. Anyway, this is put that back. Of course, this is another gessoed page with the embossing on it. the cool thing about those is it still gives you plenty of journaling space, but at the same time it's still decorated. Okay, this page is a vintage belly band, and it actually has a pocket underneath it, and it's got some journaling cards in there on both of those. This is again a piece of vintage sari, and it's got a pocket in front and a pocket in back. You've got this receipt, and then you've got another picture, and behind it you've got this journaling card. Put those in front. All right, of course you've got the trim, and you've got fringe on the bottom. This is the very last pages of the journal, and then you've got this journaling card here, and that is done with the gel plate, and that goes in here. Let me move this out from underneath it because it's kind of messing it up. And then that is has another pocket on the bottom, and on the side you've got this beautiful piece of sari silk with 3 different journaling cards coming out the side. And you've got another one of those little dangles, and of course the trim on the end, and then the tassels on the end. So that's pretty much it. That is my, I call this my Boho Gypsy Journal Pink. So that's all of it. So if you are interested in one, like I said, I think they're both spoken for, but if for some reason they're not, it will be in my Etsy shop, and I will link that in the description box. And like I said, I do think it's reserved, but if for some reason, the way I do it is I don't really do custom orders. I just kind of make them, and if people want to reserve them ahead of time, that's fine. I don't know that I'll be doing another Gypsy journal for a little while. I think I'm going to probably do something a little different. These are extremely time consuming and very labor intensive, and I love making them. It's just so fun and so over the top, but I probably won't attempt any of these until early in the early part of first year, and I think I'm going to do something a little different. I have to do different things all the time, or I get kind of stuck. But I will be doing more because I have a lot of stuff, and I need to use it. So I will be doing more, and if I do, then I'll probably just make them and do a flip through and do it that way rather than have people reserve them. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you are interested in how I made this journal, I have a lot of videos out there on my channel that are free tutorials, so you're welcome to watch them and see how I did things. They would be under Boho Gypsy Journal in my playlist, and there's quite a few videos on how I did a lot of these techniques. Not this particular journal, but the first one I did. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it.